like to bring the meeting for the Zion Park District Board to order for the day and month dated September 19th, 2024. Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Green? Commissioner Hyde?
Here.
Commissioner O'Hara? Here. President Burke. Stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice. Yep.
And Justin,
Accept the minutes.
August 22.
August 22, 2024.
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hyde?
Aye.
Aye. President. Do we have any changes to our agenda?
No changes to.
So at this time, I'd like to actually welcome our guests.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they'll be giving presentations.
Okay, and I guess they're gonna do it right now.
They will do that after my executive director report. They'll start on new business number 9.
Do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda?
No changes.
Any comments from the commissioners?
We can make a motion to.
Oh, sorry, my agenda. I need to make a motion to approve the agenda for any additions or deletions. If we have none.
Okay, I'll second that.
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hyde?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Hara? Aye. President. Moving right along, we're gonna go actually, actually had any comments,
I can make the IUP allowing that one to be implemented. I knew I was trying to talk to a different party. Yeah, a good time.
First of all, I would like to say I can't tell you how many people that have come up to me and have said what a great job the Park District is doing all around. And I have to say it's been years in the making. The Shiloh Park, how long have we been waiting for that? Or Marilyn was here when we were talking about that. So the stuff that you guys worked on together is all coming to fruition, and I'm just only compliments. And I also attended the Lagoon Glow, which was such a nice little event, and my 2-year-old granddaughter with me, and I took her over to the park. It really was spectacular. That park is really, really, really good. And I don't know if you're going to plan on doing another Glow, just bigger and bigger.
and I'd like to just add to that, Labor Day parade was also awesome. It was wonderful. I had my granddaughter who was visiting from Florida here, and she joined the parade, so it was really great to see so many children actually representing the Zion Park District. And also we must thank our senator, well, it's not our senator, but Senator Adrian Johnson for giving the opportunity to speak at her event to invite several people to come out and enjoy some of the activities here in the city of Zion, as some of our residents were there. And that's all. And the great, awesome job fair that we had here. It was so great to see so many youth actually finding work and just it was just awesome. Just to see a lot of them change, getting the information that they needed out to the community. So thank you for all those who were involved in putting that together. And moving on next, we're going to go ahead and go on to item number
Number 8, yep.
um, I will
Oh, no, we should do the bills. Yeah,
regular
there's
attorney report.
no report. There is no report from the attorney.
And we'll move on then to our treasurer's final task position monthly.
Expenditures?
Yep.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve expenditures for August at $1,209,929.
Yeah.
1,209,929.
Carlson?
Aye.
Aye. And,
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on some of the events that everyone has already touched on here today. And I know we talked about a little bit in our efficiency committee, but obviously the big one was, the Labor Day parade, full of a lot of great activities that brought people together, starting with the mayor's breakfast in the morning. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend that one this morning, but it always is a well-attended and good positive event for the community that kind of kicks off Labor Day in Zion. And then again, nice to have the parade back. I think it's the second year now, kind of post-COVID, where the parade is back, and the community really comes out strong to support it, and it just feels like it's growing. And it was a tremendous success, and I appreciate the commissioners for participating and being in the parade. It seems like they always enjoy throwing candy, including Jesse, who dropped more candy in the vehicle maybe than on the street, but
Really?
It was a take-home.
but I think it's just nice that the public gets to see the commissioners, and great to hear, like Cheryl was saying, some of the positive feedback. It's a team effort here. I think we have a great team. We have a small team. Everyone's really working hard, from our part-time staff up to our most seasoned full-time staff. Really thankful for all the people that we have here and the work that they do every day, and just really want to emphasize how much that is a team effort. The other thing I wanted to mention is that state conference is coming up. That's the IAPD IPRA Soaring to New Heights Conference, which is held in Chicago. So definitely let Doug know about it, and give Doug and Dave too. I know Dave was going to attend last year, but kind of had a last minute personal matter where he wasn't able to attend. But that's the end of January. Really would encourage all the commissioners to go if you're able to. It's the largest state conference for parks and recreation in the nation. As we know, Illinois has a large parks and rec industry, and that really is a great conference. I know staff are very appreciative of the board allowing staff to attend that conference, to be able to network with other professionals and take advantage of a lot of the learning sessions that are down there. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar now.
So, today or today?
You can really attend as much or as little as you want, but it's essentially like a 2.5-day conference or so.
Which days of the week?
It starts Thursday, then goes all day Friday, majority of the day Saturday. But like I said, that's the end of January, and if you do want to stay down there, the Hyatt Hotel where it's hosted does book up fast. So I'm happy to coordinate any hotel reservations. If you're interested in staying, we can at least reserve a room. I would encourage you to at least reserve. I can reserve a room for you, and if you decide to cancel,
So, I encourage us as soon as possible.
yeah, I would, and at least that way we can put a placeholder in for the room. Early.
I'm interested.
Okay.
So and I think I come like
Sure.
you will learn a lot of really different people. I met a lot of nice people in the company. A lot of different roles, different presentation you meet, all different when some people think you use the guy that I know you could been you forever. He always asks me about Alan. I'm like, you have this. You like, he was at the top. I mean, he came up talk to me. But telling a really nice folk down here come to us there at lunch to go out and give level, go to classes, and you will learn a lot. Yeah. I will know the next month
Okay, that's fine.
because my niece mommy comes up for 2 weeks for the last 2 weeks
Okay.
to her 14s. But
Sounds
if
good.
I'm home, I want to go.
Okay. Good. A couple other things I just wanted to mention that happened during the month. A couple significant anniversaries. Herman Park had its 49th anniversary and had a nice cookout gathering. So obviously next year, David is already thinking about the 50th anniversary of Herman Park and planning a nice celebration and get the community together. But it was really nice what he put on this year. Had a lot of food, good attendance, people just kind of coming out for a general picnic to support Herman Park. And then Shepherd's Crook had its 25th anniversary. I think it was like last week of August, and Alan ran Customer Appreciation Day because he didn't want to just have one main event just in case people couldn't make it. He wanted to really give customers that have supported the course over the last 25 years the opportunity to participate, whether their league is on maybe a Monday night or they only golf on Thursday or something like that. So just try to offer like something every day to recognize and thank the customers. That's it. I mean, other than some of the comments that the board had mentioned as far as the lagoon glow and the IP outing and the job fair, a lot going on and great events. Glad to hear the positive feedback. Yep, so we have Hannah is first up on the new business agenda. She's going to present our fiscal year 2023-2024 audit. And so should all have in front of you a bound copy of the audit along with a management letter as well. Hannah is one of our auditors from Lauterbach Naaman that we work with closely. Also want to mention that as Meg Taylor is here, who's our accounting manager, who does a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the day-to-day on the accounting work, and works with Hannah closely to, work on the audit. Virginia, who also works on it, is our accounts payable specialist. You'll see her name in here as well. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, but, do want to recognize all of her efforts and hard work throughout the year.
Thank you so much for having me. Like Eric said, my name is Hannah Fullerton. I've been with LNA for about 4 years now, with the Park District for about half of that, I would say. So I'm here to present the 24 audit, but beat me to it. I just wanted to recognize and thank the entire staff for helping with the audit, because I know it's just, something just right dab in the middle of your busy work days that, you have to have, unfortunately, but it's always greatly appreciated. It's so great to see you guys once a year.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So thank you so much for all. I'm just going to dive right in. I know it's a long report, so I'm just going to kind of highlight some key points. First one that I wanted to mention was on numbered page 8, where you'll see the GFOA award certificate. This is something that the park district has to apply for. Not all of the park districts or municipalities this award, but I do also want to recognize that this is also the 31st consecutive year that this park district has had this award. Next section is on page 11, you'll see the independent auditor's report. This is where we give our opinion of the audit. We gave an unmodified or a clean opinion. It's the highest opinion that we can give, and it's exactly what you want to see. The next section starts on page 17. It is the management's discussion and analysis. This is kind of a high-level overview of what the rest of the report will look like. I always like to say that I kind of gauge everyone to go here if they don't have enough time, or they just want to get brief highlights of what the report is, how the year had gone. I always kind of pinpoint them here because it's about 10 to 20 pages of what the year looks like. So starting with the basic financials, we'll start on page 30 and 31. This is the statement of net position, which is your assets and your liabilities for governmental and business type activities. You will see in the current year, the governmental activities for total assets and deferred outflow of resources were 20.7 million. And liability side for liabilities and deferred inflows of resources was 7.3. On the business type side, it was 8.1 million for assets and deferred outflows of resources, and the total liabilities and resources were $315,000. This gives us a total net position of 13.4 million for governmental and 7.8. On the next 2 pages, you'll see the statement of activities, which is your revenue and expenses for your governmental and your business type. For revenue side on the governmental activities, you will see about $7.5 million, and then expenses were 5.3. On your business type, you will see revenues of about 7.1 and 1.8, and then for the expenses side was 1.8 or 1.7. This will give us a change in that position, so about a 20% increase for governmental activities, so that was a 20% increase in revenue and expenses, and then business type was about 2%. For the pages 34 and 35 are your fund level for your general, your rec, your special revenue, your debt service, capital projects, and non-major. I'm not going to go too far into this because that's a lot of information, but I do want to pinpoint 2 of the biggest high earning accounts for general and recreation. Those are very strong accounts with your net position. Next section is 38 and 39, which is your income statement, so your revenue and expenses for those fund level items. And then for your business type, your Shepherd's Crook Golf Course is on page 42 and 43 for your balance sheet. So this is where you'll see that 2% increase overall in the current year, and then followed by those income statement items on the next page. On 44. The next section is starting on page 46 is your notes and financial statements. This is kind of your meat and potatoes, the dive deep into what those numbers mean. It's a lot of jargon, but there's some highlights that I would like to point out throughout this section. So if I direct you to page 57 is the first one, which is your leases receivable. This is after the implementation of GASB 87 that happened 2 years prior. Or last year actually. This is where we talk about all of the cell tower revenue coming in. That just needs to be a footnote throughout the year. The next 2 pages, on 58 and 59, are your capital assets for your governmental and your business type side. You'll see an increase and decrease of some asset types. So your construction in progress, your buildings, machinery, equipment, improvement, software, and leased assets are all listed there. On your business type side, there are no decreases, just some increases to land and your buildings. On page 60, you'll see the start of your long-term debt. Nothing too much to go into here. There was a retirement of one of the GO bonds for 22, and then a issuance of the 2023 bond. The next section will then be on page 65. I always like to point out some joint venture ticket items, so the SRS MLC or your Special Recreation Services of Northern County. So just to show that the district contributed about $81,000. And then the next big section is your supplementary information, which starts on page 77. This is where you'll see all of these schedules of contributions, so your IMRF, and then for OPEB as well, and then your budget to action. Throughout this section, right after your budget to actuals, you will see on page 106 is the consolidated year-end financial report, which is the cipher, which is for all of the grant expenses throughout the year. So you'll see all of the OSLED grants, your Shiloh playground expenditures as well. So you see 1.2 million in state expenditures. You have about 70,000 in federal, and then about 134,000. The next section is the statistical section, which is financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, some of the demographics, all that fun stuff. This is something that is in the report because when you apply for GFOA to get that certificate that I first mentioned, this is something that really note there, but please feel free to have time. So that's that report, but I do want to quickly mention the smaller packet, the management letter packet. This is where we give any recommendations, or you'll see some pronouncements that come out throughout the years for GASB that we have to notate throughout the year. So you'll see some current recommendations and some prior recommendations. In the current recommendations section, you'll see collateral deposits. So this is just the FDIC coverage of cash throughout the year. You'll also see a deficit fund balance with the police protection and paving and lighting sections. Just something to go over, just in nothing that can't be covered. In prior recommendations, you'll see the GASB implementations of 94, 96, 100, 101, all of those fun things. These didn't really have too much effect in the year because they were mostly not applicable, but we always like to say that they have been implemented, but will be reviewed in subsequent years if there is anything that changed. After those GASB pronouncements, you will also see the funds not in compliance with fund balance policy. This also just kind of links to the prior current policies or prior notes as well. And then you also have your funds over budget.
Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to add too that, this is an important document that we provide to our creditors, whether it's our bank, our investors, anyone that we're looking to borrow money from. This is an important piece of financial information that an investor will comb through, all the various sections. And I think, again, the report, and Hannah can speak to it as well, conveys a strong financial picture of the Park District right now, which was a significant factor in us being able to borrow that $2.7 million for the budgets that we need. It's nice to be able to know that, when you need credit and when you have projects coming up, that you have a strong financial picture and you show yourself as a worthy borrower. And in addition to getting the funds, you're also receiving, right, our district receiving very beneficial rates. So I mean, even right now with that large bond that we have outstanding, that 2.7 million that we issued this fiscal year, that was we issued that at a rate below 5, and we've been investing that money at a rate below 5. So, you know, this is a really important document. It takes a lot of work to create. Is the result of staff staying on top of everything throughout the year and doing a great job, keeping everything in line, keeping everything organized, and then kind of coming to the end of the fiscal year, which is, to me, this is kind of like the final exam, that, you know, someone an independent firm comes in and just digs through everything that you've done and says, is this correct? And then we're going to put it in the format that's required by the GFO. You have a question?
No, I was going to say, double thing a year.
It's hard to say. I would say it's similar. I would say that it still shows a positive trend and a positive picture.
Eric, our assignment is to read the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, quiz at the next meeting. Yeah.
Maybe just the management letter in this analysis
Yeah.
portion, you know,
Yeah.
that little small
Even
portion.
with an open book test, I feel it. Very good.
And pointing out too for you know, Doug or anyone else's just general information, when we look at some of the comments in the management letter, you talk about like amount not in compliance, like on a fund balance. So we adopted a fund balance policy probably 4 or 5 years ago. We didn't have one before, and then at the recommendation of the auditors, they recommended that we adopt a fund balance policy. So kind of like in each fund, and essentially how much cash are you going to have in that fund. And in the audit fund and the public liability insurance fund, where it shows that that fund balance is really not in compliance with the policy, well, one of the things that we had wrote when we created the policy was that, you know, funds may take multiple levy cycles to become compliant with the fund balance. Because, for example, with the audit fund, which was always negative before, the general fund actually had to transfer money into the audit fund for the audit fund to pay its bills. And then we put the fund balance policy in place with the audit fund effectively having no money, zero, right? And so we said that it's going to take multiple levy cycles for the audit fund to be able to save the required cash.
You know, this is a standard that is always going to be separate.
Yeah, so you'll always see a separate like report and then also. Yep. Will vary. But
So Carolyn, we'll need a motion. That's right.
Okay, you're gonna, write a motion to, sorry, what was that?
The fiscal year ended April 30, 2024.
Okay, the fiscal year ending April
30.
30, 2024. Audit, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
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 Commissioner McGarrett? Aye. President? Alright, so it'll be the school service. Alright, we'll all have-
And Hannah's gonna head out. She has a long
Awesome.
ride back.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you
You
again.
too. Have a great night.
So Scott Gonke is returned to our meeting to talk about a couple things. This time he's going to talk about his services proposal, which is included in the audit report in there around PDF page 65-ish. Scott's from Gowalt Hamilton. And he also has prepared a presentation on kind of the current status of data. So,
That's the letter from Leo.
oh yeah, Leo is Really? Well, what's Leo's role there? He's like the director of operations for Goodwin-Hamilton.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's my ball.
Oh.
So, if you could start with your experience and how you'll assist in the project, like what your role will be before we get into the presentation.
Yeah, sure. So what I bring to this project is over 40 years of experience in field design, construction, and management. Probably the most important one is the last one, and that's the maintenance. So when I look at building field, I always keep the end result in the maintenance in mind. So I've worked for our districts, school districts, colleges. I've worked on Wrigley Field. I've worked on a practice facility. And when I retired from my public job, people in Hamilton asked me to come and work for them and help run a division called building operations. So I not only do now outside construction stuff, I also handle facility assessments and that kind of thing. So I'm also a founding member of the Illinois Sports Managers Association. I sat on the board for years, 7 years as president, and I just got reelected back on the board last year for better or worse. But happy to serve again.
So, and if I can just add to that too, so Scott brings right a wealth of experience and knowledge to a project that has a much larger scope than the Shiloh Park project. Right, the David Park project is more than double the budget. It's about 15 acres in size. The construction build time of that is going to be much longer, and I think that, and Rich can add to this too. You know, when we were going through the Shiloh Park project, we didn't have someone in this capacity really overseeing the project. It was effectively Rich out there as much as he could be while managing the pool and all his other duties daily, you know, to keep on top of the contractors. And as we all know, like if you have a contractor working in your home, yes, there are project specifications, there are things that are supposed to be done. But it really takes the owner, whether it's your house or the park district situation, to follow up on the contractors and make sure and verify that things are being done, you know, in accordance with the contract. Because a lot of times work can happen and things can get buried or covered up, and if no one's there really frequently to check that things are being done correctly, it's just going to set up for problems down the road. So again, with Shiloh Park being a smaller project, you know, Rich really ran himself ragged this summer and caught a lot of things on the contractor, and through that, I think we learned a lot about, you know, what we needed going into David Park. And we had known Scott just kind of informally for the last 9 months or so, you know, whether we meet him at conferences or had lunch with him, and aware of his firm because Goodwin-Hamilton did the assessment on the Shiloh Center, the flood mitigation assessment. And so they've done other work in our district before as far as like professional services. And again, this role would be, you know, if you consider it when we built the patio at Shepherd's Crook, right, we utilized Camosi as the construction manager, right? So again, the construction manager is overseeing the various contractors that are on site to be sure that the owner's interest, the park district interest is being taken care of, right, or overseen. So that's why, again, we'd like to engage Scott. He has a proposal here for $75,500. That is essentially a time proposal based on, you know, the estimated hours that Scott and Leo said. Okay, looking at the construction schedule and the different phases of the project. That again is a not to exceed. That's a not to exceed. So we're estimating that we'll need approximately $75,000 of his, you know, time and expertise to assist us. And if it were to get to that level, right, we would come back to the board. Yeah, or not, right? It could easily, not easily.
My goal is to burn through all that. It was just based on the schedule and looking at the complexity of the project, how make sure.
So I don't know if the board wants to ask Scott questions now or let him proceed with his presentation. And then ask everything. Better?
I'll just make a comment based off of, since I wasn't here last time.
Yeah, sure.
Then you sent the letter and I couldn't open the
Yeah.
attachment. So my initial thought was, which you just kind of cleared up for me.
Yeah.
But it was, okay, we've got a contractor, and then you guys said you were out there every other week. And so then I was like, do we really need an extra person out there if you guys are already out there? But it sounds like that's almost too much. Is that a correct statement?
I would say it is too much, right? It's too much. Every other week, in fact, is not even enough. We're moving meetings with the contractor and the rest of the team to weekly meetings because so much is happening in 7 days. These contractors are even working on Saturdays and stuff like that. But because so much is happening, and we don't have, internally here at the Park District, like a construction project manager that they may have at Arlington Heights or something like that. Right? We don't have that person, and we don't have a need for that person on an ongoing basis.
I just want to say that before the presentation.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, if you want to proceed with your presentation, and
Stand up though.
I haven't. You know what? I haven't wrote it as the PDF, so will that? I'm not sure. I have to scroll through this.
My clicker.
I can
Some of the
be.
lights off, or?
Let me see. Maybe I can just page down it.
I have it in a USB drive too. Plug it in the computer.
That is what I did, Scott. Okay, so I can flip through. I'll flip through. So just say next slide. I'll be Van
I'll
away.
stand over here and pull there. Okay, so look at all those happy faces there. Absolutely thrilled to be out there in the dust. Yeah. I love the John Deere part. So, I'm really happy to be part of this project. I kind of have a passion for construction. I went to school for it. Took horticulture classes when I started working on the field stuff. And I played sports when I was a kid, so sports was kind of my passion. And doing this kind of stuff is always great, right? Serving the community is huge. And I did it, as I had said, at every level, from high school to college to elementary districts. I've covered all of them. So for me, this is just like, so every good project starts with demolition, right? So the contractor, most of the work that's being done right now is being done by DK, who is a earth moving contractor. And I have done other projects with them before, so I have plenty of experience with them as well. And what they do good and what they don't do good. What they don't do good is they want to do things their way. And not necessarily look at the specifications and do it how it says in the specifications. And that leads into trouble, and we've had discussions with them about issues on this project already. I know the owner of that company, and he came to a meeting yesterday for the first time since I've been on site. And I'm sure when he found out that I was on this site, he was not overly pleased because I hold them to the standards of the specifications in place. And although he may try to change my mind, I hold pretty fast. Go ahead. A little more demolition. This was in the playground basketball area and the parking lot that was there as well. The tractor that you were standing next to when you took that picture had a disc behind it, and that did the area behind where all of the ball is. So he just went through it with a disc, commingled everything that was there, including the irrigation pipe, the drainage pipe, anything else they thought they could hit. For better or worse. That's not what the specifications said they were supposed to do, but that's what they ended up doing, and that led to a few problems. We'll talk about that next one. So this is, they told us that they were to subgrade. Subgrade will be a finished level before we put the topsoil on. Right? So
I saw a laser there.
yes. So I know this is kind of hard to see from there, and I think he gave you PDFs of it, right?
Yeah.
So this is all debris that was dug up when they disked the field. This is drainage pipe, pieces of irrigation pipe. There's some filter fabric and stuff in here. I am very particular about this, and because of all this has happened, I've asked for a subsoil inspection before they put down the topsoil. So it's very important because when the root plant of the turf reaches that, it needs to be able to continue to grow. And so it needs to be right. Soil is everything when it comes to building it, or your own yard. Right? If you want good quality grass, the soil underneath it has to be really good. This is one of my aerial shots. I brought my drone out this day to get some good aerial shots. So this is the west side, obviously, of the project. And you'll see here all these V's is part of the new drainage system called a multi-flow drainage system. And it looks like fingers. So it's 6 fingers that's wrapped with a sock or a filter pad to keep out any sediment or anything. So what they're doing is they're excavating those trenches, getting ready to put that in. And it runs, and that's called a herringbone pattern, throughout 4 quadrants of the soccer field area. And then the blue pipe, or the green pipe, whichever you like, is the bigger collection pipe that's going to go all the way around the perimeter to collect those little fingers, and the water will be carried to that bigger pipe.
Flooded? Or
No. If it rains, whatever, it's gonna. The idea behind it is supposed to drain the field and keep it playable. Right? The big question is how much can it take? You can overwhelm the system in a 2 or 3 inch rain, but the way these are laid out, it should take a good amount of water out the field. So,
And I was just going to say that's all part of the initial bid. That's all part of Hitchcock Design's design of the field and the entire project.
So this is just another angle, another side of the field that they were working on, trenching in the lines and putting in the pipe. This is a lot of handwork. And as hot as it's been very dusty out there as well. But they're doing a good job of getting it done. And then once the pipe is in, they clean all of this stuff. This is waste from the trencher. They take all that off and take it away, and then they backfill these lines with sand to further enhance the ability to take water into the
So all that soil has already been tested and is good to go?
This is all subgrade. We don't need to test that. We'll talk about that. So this is what it looks like, the pipe in the trench. Now what's very important here, and that's what these sticks or these pieces of wood lath are for, is they're holding the pipe in the center of the trench. You don't want to push up against the wall one side or the other, because that's going to decrease the ability for the water to flow into it. So you want to keep it centered. And you can see they're backfilling it with sand and going along and keeping the pipe in the center of the trench as they're going along. Again, very labor intensive. But he's had 2 crews working out there now for almost 2 weeks, putting in this pipe. So this is a shot of them installing some of the manholes for the bigger collecting pipes. They're prepping a manhole here to put it in along the perimeter. Here's another one that's staged. and the lines go really all the way around the entire field area. So the field is pitched, there's two fields, and they're pitched from the center, and one side goes east and one side goes west. And even within those two areas, the watershed goes in different directions as well. It's pretty sophisticated. So here's, you see this is a multi-flow here, and it fits into this, and they have a hole in this pipe, and they have a connector that connects the end of this into it. This is a clean out, so that seasonally, if Rich wanted to, he could go in and flush out and make sure there's no clogs in the drain. Just another connection location. Same thing. They will do the same thing. They'll pour a hole in it and put that connector in. So you get a kind of an idea of what that looks like. On the really long runs, because the rolls are only a certain length, they have to couple together, and that's one of those locations where it had to couple together. You can see the fingers in there that I talked about, and they'll carry a good amount of water. They originally wanted to lay these flat. The flat application is designed for an artificial turf system, but that's what the contractor was used to. When they reached out, Eric shared some of their thoughts on installing it. I've installed this stuff several times on several projects, and I said, no, it needs to be trenched in and put in vertically and backfilled the same. That's what they're doing. So there you see a finished line with the sand on top of it. I should probably take my drone out there and take the aerial shots because they were pretty close to being finished yesterday when we were there. So this is the larger collection pipe system, almost at the end of the line. So there's one pipe that comes in from this direction, connected to this manhole. This will go on the other end of the field, and then this goes out to the manhole that carries it out to the stormwater area.
And it's important too that these are at the correct grade and the pipes are at the correct slope, right? So everything's flowing the way that the system was designed to flow. For example, Rich, when we were working on the Shadow Park project, he caught a pipe that was back fixed the other way and happened to be on site that day and told the contractor, this is incorrect, right? You have the water going back toward the quartz area and it needs to get away from it.
And the one on the lower part of this one, I was out there the day they were installing it, and it was going into an existing manhole. The pipe is still supposed to have pitch on it. And yeah, and so yesterday when we were out there, I brought it to Rich's attention, and I said, I don't think there's enough pitch on the pipe. And sure enough, they came out with a measuring stick and measured it, and it's almost that flat.
So contract specifications say 2/10 of a pitch. And when they don't do
we're
that,
out there that day, you're out of luck, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manage a project when?
Well, it's the same thing I was telling you about how they wanted to install it flat.
Yeah.
So what they were going to do is they were going to take the subgrade, right? There's only 6 inches of topsoil going on top of it. So they just wanted to lay it flat on the ground. So what happens is you put 6 inches of topsoil on that, and part of your cultural practices or your maintenance practice is to aerate the field to keep it from getting compacted. Well, when you deep tie an aerate, you can go as deep as a foot. Well, what's that going to do to the pipe that's only 6 inches below? You're going to tear it up.
That's the question, then, is what percentage of your time is going to have to be there on site?
I thought, yeah.
Right?
well, yeah, and in these critical stages, I think the answer is a lot, right? And so that's why we continually ask the contractor for a construction schedule, an accurate schedule that he updates frequently, so everyone's aware, especially Scott's aware, when the critical things are happening.
Yeah,
So his time is maximized.
when I got on the job, there was no construction schedule at all. That's the first thing I asked. The specifications, they were supposed to have one available 14 days after notice of award. Well, here we were already 4 weeks into the project when I walked in, and still didn't have a construction schedule. And we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and now they're finally providing an updated one on a weekly basis.
What authority do you have? I mean, what's the top dog? I mean, do you advisory? Can you tell these guys shut this down, it's wrong?
No, I have to go to Eric and Rich first, let them know what I found, and then they would have to talk to Hitchcock and/or Landworks, who is the general contractor.
And Landworks is the one that you're not good with Suntech.
No, DK is their sub.
Oh, DK, okay.
Is their subcontractor who's doing a lot of this
Okay.
earth
Yeah.
movement.
But that's gotta happen pretty quickly then.
That's
Because, you know, it's kind of like, you can't like, get back in a week. So
Right.
you're gonna call them, you're gonna call them, you're gonna,
Right.
right? Because otherwise, they're gonna keep on doing it if you don't have the authority to pull it switch or something. I mean, at least say, look, we need to stop until I talk to the guys. I mean, I'm just trying to.
Well, I talked to the DK contractor because I had some grade issues as I was looking at it, and they prefer me to go with the Landworks, their foreman, and talk to him first because he runs all of the different contractors.
They have several things happen at once, different crews doing what they do
Yes,
best, or is it
absolutely.
one, everybody on one list now?
No, because they have a crew working on this parking lot area, and then they have 2 crews working on the drainage. Their goal, and we'll talk about it in a couple of slides, and I have a copy of the schedule. So what I did for the schedule that I put on this presentation is I looked at the schedule and only put on there what they're going to be doing until the next quarter. So if you want me to come back and give another presentation and update on what they're doing, I can do that, or I could just, send a PDF or whatever you want, call me whatever. But it's a lookout, right? They need to project to me what's going to be happening in certain stages, because like Eric said, there are critical times that I really need to be out there. So like I talked about the subsoil needs to have an inspection before we put the topsoil down. What I'm looking for is all that debris that I showed you in that one slide. None of that can be there. No stones over an inch in diameter can be there. So those are critical phases of the project.
That's an inspection, I mean, like,
That's me.
okay, so you say, you don't send like samples, you get someone else to do that.
So there is a testing company that's on the job at FMC, and they will test content, and they already have tested content. So I'm going to talk about that.
So I don't know anything about this, but like for the building project, we put a deck on our house. At each level, the city had to come and inspects everything. Do you have that for something like this, or not? Is it just the final?
Well,
Did
that's
somebody
really,
inspect this?
yeah, I mean, that's really on us. That's on the project team, which is kind of like Rich, myself, Scott, and then the individuals that design the plan from Hitchcock Design Group, their civil engineer, and along with their landscape architect. And that's really who comprises the meetings, like the weekly meetings, in addition to the contractor, a representative from his subcontractor. So there's a good 10 of us that will meet weekly and talk about things, talk about concerns or next steps.
The government guy can't show up, like, you know, we were there, and all the rocks that were down, so the county requires. that type of thing. You just knew that because you've done this a lot, or was there a guy that could show up from?
Well, it's just best. It's just more like best practice in sports field construction, right? So an inspector from the county or the city, that really wouldn't be their highest priority or their concern.
However, the county will jump on you if you didn't put that big rock that came in. It's called riprap, and it's designed to catch any mud or anything that's coming off the tires of the vehicles going in and out this way. What they're trying to do is not let it spread out on the road, because once it does, then the county's going to come and jump on you. They need to get out there and clean it up.
For the most part, then, whatever's going to be caught, it's going to be caught by you first. Or Rich, right? I mean,
Yeah, and Rich is out there a significant amount of time, and I'm out there, nowhere near as much. But
And I text Rich. When I come out, so he knows I'm there. If he wants to come out, so he can see what I see.
so they've been working closely.
So the inspection that you were talking about earlier, is that an inspection that you're gonna have to pay for, or is it something? Subsoil.
The soil inspections through the testing company, which is SMC, Soil and Material Consultants, those are bid into the contract as far as like how many soil samples will be taken at what parts. If we want additional soil samples taken, then that would be, a change that we would request for the soil samples. But those are bid in the contract along the way. As far as, some basic surveying to confirm grades, if we want anything above and beyond that, because maybe we have a concern or we don't think something's correct, that would be our cost.
So one of the other things that SMC testing wise does is called approval. So in this parking lot, they come in with a big semi truck, dump truck, and they fill it, and they have them drive back and forth, all the way across it. And what they're looking for is this soil that's underneath it to compress, right? And if it compresses more than an inch, it fails the proof rule, which means there's something underneath there that's not supportive of the parking lot that's going in there. So that was done here. SMC witnesses it. They give a report. They mark areas. Go ahead to the next one.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if it fails the proof roll goal, that doesn't mean it's the contractor's fault, right? That means in that situation that the soil that we expected to be under there was not as good or, as rigid as we had hoped. So we had that situation on the Shadow Park courts. If you remember, when they proof rolled the courts area, there was a section of the courts that failed the proof roll, and then we had the large change order for like 120,000 or so to bring in the stone to stabilize the court area so we could, pave and lay good courts on top of it.
What the stone does is called it bridges the gap, gives it a firm foundation. So this was the report that came from SMC, and you saw that tractor, that pile of stone. Well, that's sitting right about where this is. So they identified the size of each one of those areas, A, B, and C, and they give recommendations on how to get it to the point where it's going to be supported.
Right. And so if they can't get it there, this would be a situation where we may need to come back to the board and say, we need a change order to bring in X amount of stone to stabilize the soil for the parking lot.
Any questions on the side of it? Explain that already? So this is the stockpile when they did the soccer field area. Again, that tractor sitting there with a disc on it. They disked up everything that was on the field. You can even kind of see, here's a piece of irrigation pipe, here's another one, here's another one. It's sticking out all over the place. So now you're stuck with, how are you going to respread that on the field when it's contaminated with all that stuff?
Seems like it's a problem for the contractor that didn't follow suit.
It is.
It is, and we've had multiple heated discussions with them.
Yes.
And we've come to a resolution.
Yes. So what they're going to do is they're going to run that entire pile through a screen, a pulverizer. What it was supposed to be was no vegetation in the pile, no contamination, no baseball infield mix, all of that stuff was not supposed to be in the topsoil pile. There were 4 different locations where the SMC came and took soil and had it tested to see if it was going to meet the specifications of this project, and it did not. The clay content is too high, the pH level is too high. So what they're going to do is screen it, start spreading it out, and then test the material, and then determine what they need to do to amend the soil to get it to where it needs to be.
Screen it on their dime.
Oh yeah, and so the screening process will,
Yes.
right.
It's a big pile of screen.
Yeah.
It's a huge pile of screen, right? And I believe that, potentially if Scott wasn't involved, they would have just spread that.
Without a doubt. So, they probably won't use all of that soil.
Yeah.
It's 30, 4,000 cubic yards of topsoil to cover that field area. There may be some left that will be spread in other parts of the park. The problem is, based on how they took it off, so they tilled it up again, and then took a bulldozer and just scraped everything up and pushed it into that pot. So you have different levels of different kinds of soil throughout the entire pot. So my concern is, how are you going to get it? We can't dictate means and methods. We can only make observations and point out the problem. It's up to them to resolve it.
So yeah, so we have had a lot of heated on-site meetings about it, where the last one is where Scott mentioned they brought the owner of the DK Construction, who Scott knows.
Oh, that wasn't happy.
Right,
There.
right, that wasn't happy with, right.
Well, his words to me when he came up to me was, "You know why I'm here, don't you?" I said, "No." He said, "I'm here to rein you in." I said, "Good luck with that one."
It's kind of a big machine to bring on site to do that.
It is, yeah. It's got conveyors on it and stuff. The motor will come and load it into a hopper, and it goes through a screening process. It's probably not going to get 100% of everything out of there.
But it will sift out the majority of the junk, the majority of the larger stones, the majority of the
Vegetation.
clumpy vegetation.
Yeah.
And it all to the project, it wasn't something you counted on. Enough time built into that.
It will add a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, and so as you look at the schedule here, and you can look at the wood that you have on top. You have, I won't go through every point by point. But like I said, what I put in here was what is scheduled over the next month to be done. And you look at the fine grade of soccer fields, that's coming up first week, we'll call it, of October. And then seeding comes a little bit later. The problem with timing of the seeding is that in this area, usually the deadline is around the 15th of October, because that is our average frost date. What you don't want is to seed germinate at that date and start growing, and then a freeze comes because it'll kill everything that's growing. So the optimal time to really seed it is this week. So it gives it time to grow and be able to survive the winter. So obviously we're not going to make that.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. How many of the issues that we're encountering now were already included on the critical path of this project? And how are they going to actually have the timeline? How many more things are on the critical path? And how are they moving?
Yeah, I think timelines are going to be extended on this project, absolutely, because just missing the seeding window means they're going to have to seed now in spring, right? And certain work obviously can't be done over winter months. So the timeline will be extended. How far? Yet to be determined. We are, in our last meeting, talking about, different situations that we'll bring to the board probably in October, about some different things that we have identified, or just things that now everything is uncovered again. Not necessarily the contractor's fault, but just what that is, an area that hasn't been developed or really touched in 30 years. It's like when you're rehabbing an old home and you start getting into the walls, you start seeing, what maybe you didn't expect. We do have contingencies as far as financial contingencies that we've held on the project. Off the top of my head, I think it's just over 450,000 of contingency amounts that we built into the budget for the unknowns.
Yeah, and there may come a point when you're making those decisions that you need to figure out where the value is in your decision, right? I'm just going to use this example. If the soil is so poor in that pile that it's really not going to be very good for an athletic field, do you import topsoil, good quality topsoil, so that it does grow and thrive? Which would be on your
that would be on our dime, and that would again extend the time.
which could gobble up your entire contingency. I don't know that for a fact,
It could.
but I know it could.
It's trucking costs.
So you need those are the decisions that you make. So you could see they had screen retest and respread topsoil next week. That's going to be a little bit slower because I wanted the subgrade needs to be scarified. It needs to be scarified because they've had heavy equipment driving over it during this entire process of trying to get all that drainage.
Verified.
Like tilde. Okay, so the specifications say it should be tilled 4 to 6 inches deep. And what that does is it allows the topsoil, gives it something to grab onto, and it still makes a good seed bed even underneath. The deeper you can get the roots of the turf plant, the stronger it is and the better it is. So they want to do a final subgrade finish on it, and then I asked for that subgrade inspection. They wanted to do it on Monday, but they're not going to be able to make that date because Monday we're having a survey company come out to verify not only that they are at subgrade where they're supposed to be, but also the invert elevations of all of the drains. So again, we talked about the pipe that pitched correctly. We need to make sure before everything gets covered up that all of those inverts and those manholes are working the way they're supposed to. So we have a company coming out on Monday to measure all that, and they will turn it around and get us the results by the next day.
That's good that they can't cover it when you guys aren't there.
Yeah, it's really
Right?
trying to slow them down, right? It's like
Yeah.
a contractor again working in your home, and all of a sudden all the drywall's up, right? And it's like, well, what's behind the drywall? How's the electric? How's the plumbing? Are the connections correct, right? So it's really trying to verify all those things before they just cut them.
So the project manager will actually be there to make sure that there is like so feet drywall behind whatever's supposed to be. So,
Yeah.
oh,
That's really what we're doing weekly. In addition to talking about it, and what Scott's doing even more frequently than that, and what Rich is doing as well when he's able to either meet Scott out there or just drop in. So it is that ongoing verifying, checking, looking at all of that.
Yeah, in our meeting yesterday, I specifically asked everyone who was there. Don't get me wrong, Katie, you're very good at what they do. They know what they're doing. It's just they're used to doing things their way and not necessarily looking at the specification. That's the reason I'm involved in a project that will benefit those specifications.
And so, like Scott said, scarifying the subgrade is in the contract, right? But it's like, let's be sure we do that.
Yeah.
You know.
And they weren't even talking about it until yesterday.
Right. Because that for them time is money, right?
Yeah.
So the quicker they can get through it, they're done.
Yeah. The quicker they can get through it, the more profits they make. They don't have people on site. So what I asked them yesterday was, I know you know what you're doing, I know you're good at what you do, but I'm asking you to stop and think about maintaining this farm. What is it going to take to maintain it and have it viable and keep it viable? And I'm keeping that, as I said when I started this, I keep in mind when I do design, when I do project management, who's going to end up taking care of it? Because when everybody walks away at the end of the day, the contractors, the people who designed it, they don't give a hoot. They'll never come back. So this man has to take care of it. That's what I'm after.
I had 3 questions.
Right?
One, will we get extra grassy?
Extra grass seed?
Yeah, it's something happened throughout the years.
Yeah.
Well-
Yes. So one of the things that I noted in the specifications was for an athletic field, the grass seed amount, poundage, based on a pound per 1,000 square feet, was too low by half. So
What does that mean?
So a typical lawn, your home lawn, when you seed it, they will use 3 to 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet of seed to seed it. Well, when you're doing an athletic field, you usually do 8 to 10 pounds. And so we had to put a change order in, right, for them to up the amount of seed to make it a good, viable athletic field.
Which they're working on that.
Yep.
They're working.
And then the other part of it was fertilization. The fertilizer that I would normally specify to do an athletic field has a product in it that will still allow you to seed, but also will control the weeds as they come up. And you usually don't find that because on your home lawn, if you put a weed and feed down, the way the weed and feed works is it puts a barrier on the soil and won't allow the weed seed to germinate or grow. Well, it does the same to the grass seed. So if you want to plant seed, you can't put down a weed.
No.
And it has a 14 to 16 week residual, which means you've pretty much blown your entire growing season. So the product that I chose allows you to still seed, but still controls any weeds that will come up, mostly grassy weeds.
But we,
Good starter fertilizer.
but we be expert in the garage. If someone a big grass like that,
Yeah, it did.
Oh.
yeah.
Are you gonna go out there with your golf club?
Yeah, what are you gonna your golf or your 9 iron?
Testing you.
No, two, like this, the 5,000 whatever the mountain, is that what time?
Oh, the time frame on his proposal, Jess?
Yeah,
I would say
is that a yearly thing? Oh, a project thing.
it's a project thing just based on the current construction schedule and the estimated number of hours that Scott would be out there given the current schedule for the project. Now, like you said, it's a not to exceed amount, so it could be less. If it got to the point where it was starting to get to that level, then we come back to the board for another conversation of, hey, look, we maximize and we've used all Scott's time. I think we're good on that. Maybe we can take it the rest of the way, or no, we'd like to come back to the board for another X amount to get us through the home stretch.
It's the first time we talked dollar amount too, right?
Correct.
We haven't
So
actually voted on that yet.
correct. So when Scott came last month, we didn't have a complete construction schedule, so he wasn't able to give an estimate of his time. That's why. Right. Right.
Yes.
Correct. So we knew that he'd, be back or have the final proposal.
Did I miss something about, is this for payment for the project manager? Is that going to be for a year or till the project is up? And
Yeah, we based it on a number of man hours to complete the project. That's why, as Eric said, I needed the schedule to know when it was going to end. I can't really give you an estimated number of how many hours I'm going to be here if I don't know the schedule.
yeah,
So-
we currently don't know the next.
We do. We do have one now. So that's what the number in that proposal was based on. Getting it through the entire project.
And if this project is carried on because of the winter coming, winter, would that carry you on too as the-
Well, I can guarantee you that if they don't make the seeding window and winter comes, I won't have any hours in the
but
winter.
you'll be coming back the following year too.
Exactly.
In the spring, right? But you won't.
Okay.
December, January,
That
there's no
makes
payments.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That, okay.
And it's if there's nothing going on the site, there's no reason for me to do it. And you know that'll happen.
Wait, other than to make sure the site is covered properly and all that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So when if they can't do the field seating, and you can see the date right here that they have, is right up against that seating window. The specifications say it needs to be done, I think, by the 31st of September. So obviously they're not going to make that. So we need to keep an eye on them. If they don't make it to that seating window, they'll put a cover crop on it to hold the soil into place. And that's a requirement from stormwater management. So they'll put a cover crop on it, like an annual ryegrass, and then it'll die off in the wintertime, and they'll have the ability to replant or plant the correct grass in the spring.
Obviously, this amount is within the specs that you were looking at, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you would be bringing this, the proposal for Scott's.
right.
It's
I
not
would
like you were
say
blown away by it, like,
no.
right? It's kind of within.
Yeah, I would say that's right around where Rich and I were guessing. I think they're giving his numbers, so I think we were actually have to make it a little higher. But so
Wait, John.
because we know how much professional services cost. I mean, just comparing it to like hourly rates of our attorneys, which are like $3.25 an hour or something like that. Again, Scott's a principal in the firm, and I think the rate's $2.64 or something like that. So just again knowing what we pay for engineers and landscape architects and all that kind of stuff.
Just during the winter, I mean, when the project is done, is it going to fence around a huge area? So maybe not, or you can try to fence this thing in ever, or during this winter to keep people out? Is there some?
There's already a construction fence around the entire project.
That's
with a gate and a lock.
some concern. Maybe if no one's doing anything there.
Yeah, I mean that's always possible for sure.
Securing the site is all works. So if there's no work happening on the site, we are still to monitor the site, make sure it's
There's site.
And every time it rains, stormwater management will want to be on site to do this called a Becky report. Note, was there any problems with the silt fence or something like that to make sure everything stays in place.
that'll happen regardless.
Right.
Doesn't matter while the permit is in place.
Unless it has a heavy snow.
So the DECI's the designated erosion control inspector. Stormwater management's real concerned that stuff's not leaking off the site, off the perimeter into
Obviously,
waterways and stuff.
there's protocols for this because of where they live. I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Well, it's Lake
not
County.
unusual. Sure.
Yeah, okay.
You can't stick a shovel in the ground without doing stormwater.
Like you said, the large stone that you saw when you were out there for the picture, that's a requirement of Lake County.
All right, then. Are you done with your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have any more questions? Any more questions?
More questions, Jess?
All right, so we're gonna actually, I'd like to make a motion to move to pass the scope of services agreement, with the Walton Association for construction management fees for David Park while waiving requirements of the professional services selection act. Do I have I'm sorry, in the amount of, the amount of the max receipt,
75,000.
75,000.
No, I don't.
6,500, 6,500.
75,500.
75,500.
There you go. I don't have the.
75,000. He's like, he's looking like a baby. That's
So Carolyn's entertaining the motion, so someone else will actually make the
I know
motion.
she could do it.
I said the whole thing.
Yeah, you can say that.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Commissioner Carson,
Aye.
Commissioner Clyde,
Aye.
Commissioner Magiera,
Aye.
President
Aye.
Thank you, that was.
All right, thank you.
That was-
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you for working on faith. did a lot of work.
Yeah, right. He's got some credibility, yeah.
I've been working that where I work, we do a lot of that based stuff.
We have a few more agenda items, and they're more than welcome to stay or go, but we understand.
What? We're so riveting. You're
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and if you ever have any questions or you want to come up to the site, I'm happy to walk you around, show you what's going
Yeah, and it definitely won't be the last time that Scott's in the boardroom. Give it
on. Absolutely. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move right on to number 11. That's removal of the courts at Edina Park.
Yeah. So on PDF page 73, I have a write-up that I prepared for the removal of the Edina courts. There's two pictures there, so you can see the condition of the courts. Doug, I'm not sure where you live in relation to those. I know you're right there.
Yeah, we're down, farther down by 31st Street. That's the park we go to when I was getting people to sign my, they were all talking about when does our park get.
Yeah. Right. So my recommendation would be that we remove these courts and just restore the area with grass. The courts are less than 2 miles west of Shiloh Park. There's a lack of parking down there, and just given the proximity of the new courts at Shiloh, which will include 2 tennis courts, a basketball court, and a half, and the pickleball courts, my recommendation would be that we remove these courts and restore the area with grass. So to complete the demolition work, we've obtained 2 quotes. One is from Peterson Excavating, and the second quote is from Doge Contractors, who is a locally owned contractor in Zion. So they're locally owned, and it's also a woman-owned business. And they actually did provide the lesser quote. So curious to get the board's feedback on.
So, interesting you say that. So the people that I use, right across the street from it, and so you mentioned that the tennis court, which is in really bad shape and isn't used, but they did mention that the basketball does draw, it's an easier sport and it's more the community that's living there.
Right.
So I understand, it makes sense. I don't know how many people compared to others. I don't think anecdotal, but I just ask about that. So you're, any way of telling? Do you have any way of knowing how many people use that now, or is that just totally?
I don't, other than Rich might even have a better idea than me, just from what he observes of being out and about in the park. That's why I feel like we're proposing this now, because we do have a good option for them with the renovated Shiloh courts.
Except for how far is it?
It's just less than 2 miles.
That seems pretty far for like people that just walk to this one.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how much trouble, because I did see the basketball.
Right. That's the only thing that gets used. Tennis. My wife and I tried when we first came there. Always, I played the court, but I don't know. There's a lot of groundswell. I don't think I've ever been angry, but like you said, the community schools, the community churches.
Right.
Next, you have the parks that people can come to. May not even know about the wonderful parks.
Yeah.
So I just wondered how much.
Well, and I think it's a balance too of our budget and the facilities that we have and our ability to maintain all those facilities, right? Like if this was the most dire court or the only court that we had in disrepair, then we could probably budget it for next year or maybe even the following year or 2 years. But, we have a lot of playgrounds and court areas here in addition to Joanna that, are in need of repair. So again, the board's decision on whether we will want to demo these or leave them as is and see where we can fit them in our capital plan, in addition to everything else that we have on that list.
Is there some place for that? I mean, it's kind of the ugly step system of the park system. The grandkids call it Dino Park. Dinosaurs.
Yeah, right.
That's been there forever.
Right.
And the carousel or whatever. It's fun for people like you that I don't know those things when I was their age, but it's very dated.
Yeah, it's
Right?
very
So
dated.
just somewhere in the grand scheme, has that before my time on the board, has that been something that
Yeah,
maybe out there?
There is a playground replacement plan that's out there. Olivet, which we did recently this year, was the highest priority on that list because it actually had some broken equipment and was in there for a while. But you know, I think it's really at the point now that some of the priorities where if you say this is the part that we're going to do next, I mean, you could probably lump 5 in there, right? Because there could be five parts at a minimum that we do next, right? Edina Park, the courts at Joanna Park, Nazareth Park. A lot of those are 20 plus years old, so our capital list is long. And this was just something that I thought, you know, if we removed it, you know, not an easy decision, not what we want to do, but we have, you know, a lot of.
My question is, do the tennis courts, and the basketball courts, because they're so old, and a lot of times you get ground swelling, they close a trip center, especially for seniors or ADA.
I mean, the shape that those courts are in certainly has a lot of cracking, a lot of vegetation growing up through them.
So it's not like you could remove the tennis courts and keep the basketball court, or is it?
I think you could. I think you could saw cut that area of the tennis courts and demo and restore that.
I would just
I mean, that's a
hate, I just
possibility.
hate to think that if there's kids that are out there in that area, 2 miles is a lot.
Yeah.
It's far to walk if you're 5 blocks away, or.
Yeah.
And we don't know what people are saying. If I wasn't asking to get signatures, I wouldn't have known that. You know, so there are people that would be disappointed and wondering. I mean, I think the tennis court is an eyesore. Taking that out
And
is
if no one's using that,
it's just not.
Right.
It's a hazard if you have it there and not use it. So I like that idea. It would show some interest. It would show some initial. Hey, the park board is doing some work here. It's somewhere in the grand scheme. We're not going to put a little child up there.
Right.
But if that was possible, I don't know. I guess I haven't compared. I don't think the basketball court is in bad shape. It's not great. But
I mean, I have seen an individual here and there shoot baskets on it, right? When I'm out there, I haven't seen full court games of 5-on-5,
no,
but right.
That's not. You're right. I mean, they see more of that. Just a few kids
Right.
coming in. Right. The one in. I mean, I see both, but it's not going to. It's not going to be really high traffic. That's for sure. I don't think we should give it the same premium.
Right.
Of a Shiloh certainly or a Day Park.
or maybe a little love down the road.
Once you take it something out, you kind of made your decision. There's no coming back.
I would agree with
Right.
that. Yeah, I would agree.
I question that if you grass it out and all that and put a fence around it, call the golf cart. I mean, the side that's over there by, if you take it in half, and you leave the basketball half, and you leave the other half for the pets to play. I mean, you satisfy, I mean, half design, almost all design.
How you use it are the options available once it's grass, right? And you have to take it out first. So you're talking right now about demolition.
Yeah, you would demo it and restore the area with grass. And then future use to be determined, right?
You have to be pushed.
No.
Yeah.
I like you to keep up the book. Because if you see people on the coast and want to pick it up,
Yeah, it's a hard decision.
the tennis courts, I would pick it up.
Because they'd probably rather have it like this than nothing at all,
Yes.
I'm guessing.
It wouldn't cost you more. I mean, right? The cost of the demolition for the thing is a little more expensive to do both. But you're not putting any money into a basketball court. You're preserving what's there at the time being.
Right now,
Which is
down the road.
usable.
Yes.
It's not a danger to the people that come in. So I kind of feel like that's a low a good compromise because it takes out the tennis part is just ridiculous. There's no use at all to that. And, so I don't know if that's something you would consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think all options. It's just a conversation with the board. I knew it would be an interesting conversation because we live right there. So I thought, well, we'll see, what those feedback is because
It's
it's
funny
right
people
there.
say to me, now that you're on the board,
Right, because he's right there. But so
hey,
that's just my thought. But we could certainly go in whatever direction.
discussion. about this, or we're gonna?
No, we don't have to make a decision on this tonight because it's been that way for many years, and we can, leave it as is.
And if it's possible to just do that tennis court, is that possible? Doesn't check
A demo of that court.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would go back to both of these contractors and ask for your quote. Yeah, revised quote to just demo that area and restore it.
I do think that would save you. I mean, the ones I talked to, they like the old school stuff the other way, by the way. They know that that's not the best for the kids. But they weren't complaining per se.
Yeah.
They did say that's what gets the youth over there. It's interesting that they specifically say that.
Mm-hmm.
For their own kids, probably because we have teenage and young, but also others that they've seen. You know, they can just ride a bike over there, other guys, play some pick up basketball. Lights out there, we're expecting the lights at night or,
No.
bleachers.
Right, but it would require just like a resurfacing of the court, most likely, or maybe some new backboards.
Yeah, maybe that could be on
Like a
the
refresh.
list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd like that better if we could. I think that's building some goodwill that we've done so far.
So, do you want me to bring back to the October meeting a quote for the demo of the tennis court area?
And the feasibility of keeping it. Is there anything that we don't know about?
Right,
that we
yeah,
think
it's-
we'd be able to keep it? I mean, are we able to do that code wise? Is the fence good? Is around it? Fence, right?
Yeah, the
fence
fence
must
would
be
get
around the tennis, right?
Yeah, the fence is around the tennis, so the fence would get, I assume the fence would get demoed, right? Like you said, it's kind of an old rusty eyesore. So the fence would be part of the demolition.
Boys, they're all girls.
I'm just saying that there's a safety code about that if it's not safe. We have to put that.
But there's not any on this side, but I'm not sure what's over here.
Okay, so
Is that the road over here, or where's the road? The road's there. What's on the side of the court?
That's almost close.
So right now, there's not a fence on that other side, right?
Right.
Far enough off.
It's a good idea. I somehow didn't get it. I can't get up. The actual agenda is how they're sitting here. Write that up. I know it's not. For some reason, not everything I'm doing is from the efficiency committee. And I'm sure it's me.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying.
Be sure to help
I
you.
have plenty of trouble
I've
with
been
this.
trying to cheat over here.
Before the next one, we can definitely get, you know.
That's why there's wheels on these chairs. You know. I don't have it in front of me. So I'm trying to remember just for my. We go there all the time. That's the one.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to table the removal of the court.
And come back with a quote for demolition of the tennis
For demolition,
Right,
you come back with a new quote for demolition of the,
Okay.
of the,
I can. I mean, people may say or will say, well, why have they demoed that half if they're not doing anything with the basketball court?
We are eventually.
Eventually,
It's
yeah,
gonna be-
yeah.
It's on our list.
Right, right. So we'll say we just, demoed the tennis area because it
For
was more of
safety
an
reasons,
eyesore and
yeah.
we don't have a long-term plan to it.
kind of a motion to recognize reality. The part that's being used is going to be used. It's just saying, the other part, by this youth, people have voted already for that part. They're not using it. So let's move that part. But I do think it could be people that would be using it. I think it's a good compromise.
Sounds good?
You want a second?
Yeah, I don't think so. There's just we'll take no action and I'll just bring it back in October.
So I those two people.
Yeah.
okay, so now we'll move on to number 12, there's approval to purchase irrigation equipment for Sherwood Wilson. I'm the intergovernmental purchasing cooperative, under the Illinois Together.
Mhm. And so this, just to kind of elaborate on that, I mean, I think Charlie prepared this write up here. I think it was a good write up talking about like the components of an irrigation system for a golf course. Really, I don't know, a couple primary components. One, with the way Shiloh Golf is set up right now, it has the pond, right? Which currently we fill up the pond by turning on the city water, paying the water bill. So that fills up the pond. So that's the source of the water. The pump house, which the board approved, I think it was about in April or so to do the pump house repairs, has been repaired. So the pump house pumps the water out of the pond, and then it sends the water to the irrigation system out on the court, out on the right? And so these are for controllers, which is the part of the irrigation system. So once the water is out in the lines and the lines are all pressurized and everything like that throughout the course, these controllers effectively say which sprinklers to turn on and off. It's the same system that they put in place at Shepherd's Brook years ago. So Charlie and Alan had experience using this. It's a Toro system, and they're really happy with it. And in general, that whole irrigation system that's out there is probably 40 years old. So the next step would be, you know, which they've been looking at and we've talked about before, trying to drill a well, right? To drill a well to fill up the pond and not turn on the city water.
Right.
So that would be probably the next quote that we're going to see some kind of swings in. But this again is specifically for the
Comment on that, this is I mean, it makes money.
yeah,
So
right.
we want to keep
Yeah.
stuff into it to.
Yes, and we do have 75,000 of capital budgeted for Shiloh Golf. Let me just find that real quick. Yeah, we do have 75,000 in the budget for capital. And this would obviously eat up over half of that, right? And the pump house, which I don't think is recorded in these August financials because we didn't get the bill until recently in September. Given the upgrades on the pump house and then this, that's going to push us right about at that capital number, maybe a few thousand over. But again, the course is doing additional revenue that we didn't expect as well too. So. I mean, again, when we're looking at budgets, you know, they're a guide, right? They're not an absolute like hard.
So after listening to Eric, I think we might want to make a motion to purchase new Toros and satellite controllers through the Omnia contract 031121-TTC for the amount of $42.60.
Second.
Carson?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. President?
Reiners is the vendor, but the system is a Toro system.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's what we're purchasing.
I think that was the last thing on our list for tonight, and if there's nothing else, I know we had a few items. Halloween event that's coming up, and to Forest Preserve.
No, those are just some of the items that I, touched on in the executive director's report. Just some informational stuff for the board. really not actionable stuff, so we can
Motion to adjourn, you guys.
So moved.